Guess I might just, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's loud and clear. We're good.
I think the stand that I have might be covering up the mic. What about now? Is that good?
Yeah, perfect.
How y'all doing? Y'all good?
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen. People. Well, what we do. This is called the Radio Twins Experience, and this is where we interview different people because we always say that everyone has a story to tell, and whatever it is that they do, it may not be interesting to one, but it could be interesting to other people as well. So, yeah.
So today we are interviewing an interviewee. Can you introduce yourself?
Good evening, family. My name is William Tipper Thomas.
Cool.
Definitely. So, first of all, for those who may not know, how did you come up with the nickname Tipper?
Actually, I didn't come up with it at all. It's actually a nickname that was given to my father from his playing days at Morgan State University in the 1960s. He was
Shout out to Morgan.
Yeah. Shout out to the alma mater. He used to walk and run on his toes, so his teammates used to tease him about tipping off here and tipping off there. And when I was a baby, I walked around and ran around on my toes as well. Since I'm William the Third, the nickname just carried over to me as well. So
Okay. Cool. So, first of all, also is that you have a nonprofit.
I do.
What is the name of your nonprofit?
So the nonprofit is named after me, the William Tipper Thomas Foundation. There's a reasoning behind that. It's not just me being vain or full of myself, but it's named. I named it after myself to make it easy to find out and associate me with and my organization with my story, which is pretty much the basis of why I started the organization in the first place. So with my name already being easily found in a Google search, it just made sense to tie everything together and just have the whole story there laid out in front of you once you Google my name, my website, and all that type of stuff. So,
and for those who may not know your story from the beginning, how did you get? It can be brief if you need it to be, but how did you get to where you are today?
The condensed version is, as I previously mentioned, my father, he played for Morgan in the 1960s, and I grew up across the street from Morgan. So it was always my dream to, return the nickname Tipper back to Morgan State University football. And I was well on my way to accomplishing that dream until about 3 weeks before I graduated high school, May 7, 2004 to be exact. I was an innocent victim of a shooting at my high school, at Brown Center High School, that resulted in my paralysis. As I was protecting a fellow classmate. I was one of 4 people that were injured. I was the most seriously injured. And the injuries that I sustained resulted in my paralysis, thus ending my collegiate athletic career.
So if you, from that point forward, what brought you to want to start this nonprofit?
Several things that I had learned as a result of my injury. And I think it was God's way of shifting my focus, because before my injury, only thing in life I really cared about was playing football. If it didn't directly affect that, it really didn't hit my radar. But with me sustaining my injury, it made me aware of more things that were going on in the world. And my foundation is an avenue for me to be able to solve and address the problems that I have been made aware of as a result of my injury, such as advocacy, whether it's gun control, STEM education for youth, providing advocacy for people who live with disabilities, and whatever other problem that I happen to come across that I feel like my gifts and abilities give me the ability to solve.
Now, here's an interesting question that I think is interesting. How did you get into the love of mathematics? Because we all know engineering, STEM, all of that, requires a love, by the way, which I really don't have, unless it's count money. Other than that, no.
Yeah, and with me, math has always been a bitter enemy of mine.
Right.
I mean, we've been toe to toe from middle school all the way up to college, but so we would love to hear your story about how you got connected with math.
So here's the interesting thing. In order to be an engineer, you actually don't have to be good at math. You just need to be able to survive the
What?
classes. Yeah. Yeah, fun fact of the day. Yeah, I mean, you have to know enough to be dangerous to get through the coursework. Once you actually get in the aerospace and defense industry or technology industry, we have calculators and scripts that do all the calculations for us. So you just, if worst case scenario, if your systems fail, then you probably need to be able to do all the stuff by hand. But for the most part, we have tools that do the calculations for us. But how I got into it is actually as a result of my injury. Um, my father always taught me two main things growing up: to value my academics just as much as I value my athletics, and to use my gifts and talents to make life better for other people. So literally, like I said, football was the driving force for everything for me. So I knew I had to be eligible to play. So that's what drove my academics. I didn't have any idea what was coming down the pipeline of my life and how much me sticking to that word of advice that my father gave me would turn into something that would benefit me in the long run. But once my injury occurred, I was at University of Maryland shock trauma, and it was literally seconds after the doctors told me that my chances of walking again was slim to zero as a result of my injuries. They asked me what did I want to do the rest of my life, because the fact of the matter is being at shock trauma is very expensive, and the the amount of traumatic injuries we see in Baltimore, they wanted to do everything they possibly could to get me healed because they was going to need that bid eventually. So I told them I still wanted to go on my life and try to live as independent as possible. I still wanted to go to college because the ultimate goal of going to college is to graduate and not just to play ball. So whether I was walking or standing, me graduating from college was still an attainable goal, and I still wanted to see that through. Because even though they took my athletic career away from me, they weren't going to take the rest of my life away from me. So with that, you say, okay, so now you want to go to college, you have two choices of majors to major in. You can either be a doctor or an engineer. And he said that's because they were only two salaries that were going to stop me off at a level financially that I could be able to afford my injury. That's all. Affording my injury is a whole different conversation. But so I said, well, I don't want to be in school for 10 years, trying to get a doctorate degree. So I'm going to just take the engineering route. And fortunately, I had a cousin who was already a junior at the time of my injury. So he was a junior in engineering. So I was able to use him as a sounding board and as a backup to help me navigate the engineering curriculum that I wasn't prepared for coming out of high school. So all of the chemistries and physics and sciences and calculuses, I didn't see any of those until I was a college student, because my high school wasn't a STEM school, it was a magnet school for mass communication. So he was a valuable resource to me. Unfortunately, because of my injury and all of the headlines that my injury garnered, the entire campus, Morgan knew I was coming to campus. So a lot of friends that I have now, I developed relationships with them during my time in undergrad, because they were instrumental in helping me come up to speed on a lot of engineering concepts they had been seeing since, you know, sophomore year of high school. The students, my friends that went to Poly and City and Western Tech, those technical type schools that prepared them for engineering curriculum in the college that I didn't have. So they were the ones who actually, got me up to speed and helped me develop the skills that I need to learn to, become proficient at math. But don't ask me to take a derivative today. Don't even ask me to do long division today.
I gotta. When you started it, did you feel like it's like a relationship? Did you find that okay, math? I don't know. Or did you just say, you know what? I'm just going to jump straight head first, call it a day.
I think at that time I was jumping at everything head first, because I I didn't know anybody who survived, being shot. I didn't know anybody who was wheelchair bound. Um, I didn't have any example to pattern what life moving forward would look like for me. So I jumped into everything off the deep end and just found a way to tread water. And once I started treading water, I started swimming. And then I started, hopefully acting like Malcolm Phelps out there. So,
Okay. Now, by you coming, by you getting into the STEM, I mean, engineering with your foundation, how do you get people like myself and my brother who at first think, okay, math is this difficult thing? How do you get others
To get interested in it
to
as
be
well.
interested into it? You know what I mean?
I think you just have to break it down to what engineering really is. It's really a train of thought, a mindset, a systematic approach to solving a problem. You have to identify a problem, and you have to figure out what the causal factors to those problems are, and who those problems are affecting, and just sort of kind of just really just brainstorm ways to how to solve that problem, and understand that every problem that you come across, it probably won't be a solution for right now, but even with that, you can write out and identify the steps, the resources, the connections, the time that you would need in the future to be able to solve that problem. So at its core, engineering is a design process. It's just, thinking something through and critically thinking something through. That's really what it is. I mean, believe it or not, if you're a problem solver, if you're making decisions on a daily basis, you're an engineer. You just may not know all the theory and all that type of stuff that is associated with it. But if you're a critical thinker, that's the basic skill set you need to become an engineer.
So, since you've been on the pathway of your nonprofit, tell us a little bit about the other, other organizations and other uh, people who have been like really influential in the growth of your company.
Like a day-to-day operation with Tipper Foundation.
No, that's me. That's me. I mean, my sister, well, when my mother was here, she did a lot of the initial paperwork, filing with the state, getting us incorporated, all that type of stuff. And my father, he was instrumental as well because he had his MBA and he was able to, he knew what putting a business plan, all that type of stuff was like. But recently, it's been, basically me and my older sister. She, especially when it comes to managing my speaking calendar, like she took over that because I was saying yes to everything, and I was ripping and running all over the place, and she was just like, "You doing too much. I know you don't know how to say yes, so I'm gonna say yeah. I'm gonna say no for you." And so pretty much, other than that, it's just her and I. And I do have people that I rely on for my STEM programming. I do bring in, some of my colleagues who have expertise in areas of engineering that I'm not the best in. I have an electrical background, but I do systems engineering. But there's also mechanical engineering, industrial, chemical, thermal engineering. It's all types of, all geothermal engineering, petroleum engineering. It's all types of engineering disciplines out there that no one person will be able to, obtain all the knowledge for. So you bring in subject matter experts, SMEs, as we call them, to help you out in your programming and to help, drive different concepts to the students that I'm working with.
Yeah, that blew my mind because I had an ex-girlfriend who literally, I thought it was like at least three different versions of like engineering. She was like, no, it's this kind, that kind, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Okay. And she found it really interesting. And that's for me, the weird thing was you don't see a lot of nonprofits that literally focus on, engineering, statistics, money. I mean, just math in general. And it's like you have this big following. So it's like that was why we wanted to pick your brain to kind of find out exactly how you connect with other people so that they can kind of get more interested in it. Because again, we know in the Black community, usually mathematics is not like a strong suit, or at least that's what they tell us. And we know that it's more to it.
Yeah, that is a big misconception, but it's also some truth to it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the differences between my organization, so there have been recently, like the last 5 or 6 years, a lot of organizations popping up, trying to do different STEM programming, but that's mainly because there's been a lot of money being thrown towards STEM programming. And so with that, the difference between my organization and other organizations are my volunteers and myself, we are actually real live everyday engineers. We're not people who, start an organization and discover there's some money out there for a STEM program. We're going to apply for this grant and then see if we can somebody to find to run the program for us. Like, no, we go apply for the money, and we actually have the know-how to implement the program in ourselves. So, like I said, I bring in, different friends of mine, people who are in the construction management industry. Like my line brother is, I think he's the head of the small projects division for a mid-major construction management firm and management firm in Baltimore City. I have my colleagues at the job. So we all work together in a collaborative effort to sort of try to bring different concepts to the students that I work with. So,
if you could explain, I believe of you matter. Explain that.
you matter. Let me think. Let me think about it. Where did that come from again?
A form that you had not too long ago.
Sounds like something I did with my cousin.
Right.
But basically, it's most likely an event designed to, tell people or tell youth that we're working with that, their dreams and their thoughts and their ambitions, no matter how unique or quote unquote weird they may come across, that it matters. Because, at the end of the beginning of the day, when I was young and I first set out to want to play football for Morgan State, and especially when I got to college and some of my classmates, when I got to high school, and some of my classmates and teammates were talking about where we were going to go to play ball, and I said, I'm going to Morgan. A lot of people said, what you gonna go to Morgan for? Like who aspires to want to go to Morgan? Because in Baltimore, everybody thinks of Morgan as being the 13th grade, and you know who knows what they think of Coppin. So yeah, I've been hearing that for a long time. So it was just like, for me, my motivation for wanting to go to Morgan mattered to me. So me telling my story and being committed to it to the youth at that You Matter forum, just was just a driving force to them that whatever you want to do, it matters. Like you matter, your thoughts, your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, no matter how weird it may sound to somebody else. If God spoke it to you, that means you matter and you should see it forth.
That's what's up. You mentioned, I heard in one of your statement, you used the word or words, line brothers. So that tells. so that tells.
Because I always wanted to. I was like, huh?
Right.
It hit. Yeah.
So that leads me to this next question. You said line brothers. I would assume that means fraternity, correct?
It does.
And what fraternity would that happen to be?
The illustrious band of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, which is
I don't think they heard you.
Yeah, man. It's initiated, fall of 2006. Ace Gamma fall 06, Morgan State University.
What was your number?
I was number one.
So what made you decide out of all of the other fraternities that you wanted to join Phi Beta Sigma?
So, as I've previously stated, my father always taught me when I was young to use my gifts and talents to make life better for other people, right? So, when I was in middle school, I spent a short period of time living in Georgia.
Okay.
Living in Georgia, I was a part of this big community service initiative called Help Hosea Williams Feed the Homeless and Hungry for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And it was a huge event. They were giving out turkeys and serving food. It was a lot like the Be Gaddy effort that happens in Patterson Park here.
Right.
They're giving out free haircuts and hairstyles to the homeless, and clothing giveaways and gift door. It was a huge event, right? So, and I got a feeling being a part of that event that I never felt before in my life. And once I finally got to Morgan, all I knew was alphas and omegas, because my track coach was an alpha and my football coach was an omega. So once I got to Morgan, I started seeing all these other colors. So, all right, well, who are these other people? So I just, in my curiosity, just started doing research. And when I came across Sigma, I was looking at the notable sigmas and the impact that the John Lewis's and the James Weldon Johnsons and the Elaine Leroy Locks, the Kwame Nkrumahs, the William Tubbets, the William Tolberts, like the Emmett Smiths, the Jerry Rice, the impact that they had on society for Black people. I came across Hosea Williams' name, and I had no idea he was a Sigma. And it just took me back to the event that I was a part of when I was in middle school and early high school. And I was just like, okay, I remember that feeling I felt, being a part of that event.
Mm-hmm.
Service was, ingrained in the root of the organization. And I felt like it was the best fit for me personality-wise. It was the best fit for me and the old man I wanted to grow into. So that's why I chose.
I think will be added there to greats because you do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We see you do a lot. Every time we see you,
Right.
we're proud of you. So it's like when you see those big famous Sigmas in education primarily, yours will be there. I'm almost positive of that.
Now, have you always been like a public speaker? Because I know some people they're like born to do it. Some people literally kind of fall into it and, oh, I like this. Was it like, which avenue did you fall in? Like you just kind of like did it, or it was just something you loved doing in the first place?
I was being groomed for it. I didn't know I was being groomed for it.
Mm-hmm.
My father was very big in Toastmasters, and I'm looking at my trophy case now, and I'm looking at a few of his Toastmasters trophies that he used to win from, winning table topic contests and stuff like that. So, I did it because it was something that my father did. I just didn't know that I would ever have a story of my own to actually tell until my injury occurred.
Right.
The first 10 years of me being a quote unquote public speaker, I was just doing it because it was, something to do. I had no idea or no concept of honorariums or speakers fees or speakers bureaus or, you know, promotion materials. I never promoted myself as a speaker anymore. Everything that I was being asked to do was, either word of mouth or, a friend of a friend, stuff like that. So once I became aware of, that I needed to promote myself as a speaker, it sort of kind of just took off from there. And it still hasn't taken off the way I would like it to, but I have had a number of success that I'm very proud of and humbled to be a part of so many audiences and had the opportunity to share my story and my lessons learned and use my experience as a platform to help other people.
Okay.
Wow.
We would really love to at least attend one of those because we always see you all. It's always after the fact though, but we definitely want to try to make one of those because we've always wanted to hear you speak and talk about the things that you talk about in your speaking engagement.
I get cussed out. I get cussed out on a regular basis because people are like, "Why didn't you say nothing?" And it just don't even be a thought in my mind to tell everybody that I'm speaking here or I'm speaking there. And most of my speaking engagements up until COVID have been out of town. So I have to get better at allowing people an opportunity to come and support me. So I'll take that one on the chin, and I'll do better moving forward.
Okay, well then we wouldn't mind helping you promote some of that stuff if it's
Right.
here locally.
Okay.
And I think not many people know. I think we've been hounding you for an interview even before 3 years ago because like every time we saw you, always we got to interview you. We got to interview you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess thanks to the pandemic, is the opportunity as well.
Right.
We have some questions that we tend to ask. We call them it's like the twin type questions. We make the statement and you just fill in the blank.
Nothing too crazy.
Nothing too crazy.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I could never have predicted.
I could have never predicted me getting shot in the first place. Nonetheless, paralyzed. I could have never predicted. I can go all day about that. I think you might have rang me in on this one.
Okay.
I could have never predicted I would be where I am right now. I could have never predicted that I would have been in front of the people that I've been in front of. I never would have predicted that I would have the perspectives that I have right now and have this lifelong mission of, things that I want to, the change that I want to bring in this world. Because one thing I've learned, even, trying to heal mentally and emotionally from my injury, um, football was going to end regardless, whether it was via injury or I just lost a passion for the game or the governing bodies decided that I just wasn't good enough to play anymore. It was
Okay.
going to come to an end.
Hmm.
So what my injury did was just ended earlier.
Hmm.
And a lot of athletes who have their careers ended or in their careers, they're faced with trying to understand what their life looks like moving forward.
Okay.
And for me, the beauty was I was faced with that decision early on. So now there isn't a big, midlife crisis for me. I know what my mission and what my purpose is now, and I can get to that early in my career.
Okay. Well, that leads into the next question. The key to happiness, not question, the key to happiness is,
Um, Being confident in what was said to you by God, because I believe when God speaks to you and He sends affirmation and confirmation that this is what He wanted you to hear from Him, resting in that peace and acting in it, you know, allows you to block out any of the naysayers or distractions. Um, it gives you something to focus on, and that's where you can draw your happiness from. And because He will send you confirmation along the way that this is what I told you to do. So once you get those signs of confirmation, it brings me happiness knowing that okay, I did what God asked me to do, and I'm doing what He wants me to do. So that brings me peace, and that brings me happiness.
Okay.
preach.
You will never regret.
I will never regret running back to save my classmate and taking those 2 bullets, because ultimately we know what I lost.
Mhm.
Uh, but we don't know what would have happened if the young lady would have taken either of those bullets. Um, so I'll never regret saving a life, even though I lost what I lost.
Mhm. So, but okay, so it just amazes me listening to how you these statements. It kind of just leads into the next one, and it's like, wow. But you might wish you had.
I might wish I had been a little bit more reckless when I was younger. um, Probably would have did, a little bit more. Probably would have skipped school. I was a square before my injury. Probably would have, if I'd have known, that would have been the last opportunity I really had to do certain things. I probably would have did it instead of, thinking, oh, I got plenty of time to do this or do that. Or
Mhm.
I probably would have, take the opportunity to live in the moment, responsibly live in the moment. But yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. The biggest risk I ever took was,
Saying yes to what God spoke to me.
yeah, that can be a risk because some people tend to, you hear what he's saying, but then they want to do something totally different, thinking, well, maybe you might want this God. And
Mm-hmm. And it's a risk because, especially for me, when you have no roadmap, you have no guide, you have no example. It's just something in your mind and your spirit that says, do this, and you don't know how it's going to get done. And there are going to be questions and concerns from people that are around you who didn't hear what God said to you. And, you have to have, the resolve and resiliency to push through and show them, like, what He said to me was real. So it is a risk in doing so, and then not even just doing it, but also deciding how you're going to go about doing it.
right,
Like I don't, I carry myself a certain way because of the example that I want to set. Because, like I said, I didn't have a positive example of life after trauma. So being mindful of these stigmas and stereotypes associated with Black men who come from a traumatic injury, being an engineer. If you remember correctly, if you remember early on how I stated the nature of my injury. I said I was an innocent victim of a shooting at my high school. I was an athlete. I had to put all these caveats in
Mm-hmm.
to sort of kind of qualify it in people's minds that, you know, there is a such thing as innocent black man who, you know, had something happen to him and he didn't have to turn his life around to do good. He was going straight, something happened, and he continued to go straight.
Mm-hmm.
I was going this way, something happened. I said, I'm gonna do a 180 and now I want to live right. No, so I have to be mindful of, you know, how I conduct myself, you know, the language that I use, what I wear, where I am. And to some people, they might not think that it's necessary or required, but I think with the many things that I face in trying to do the work that I do, you have to, you know, separate yourself in a certain way in order to do the things that you want to do.
That's what's up.
Another deep one. So, never be impressed by
What people say. Be impressed by what they do. Because you can make your mouth say anything, but when the extra times for rubber to meet the road, that's when you're gonna find out who's who.
Right. That is so true. I hope people will remember me most for.
Lord have mercy. I hope people remember me most for loving God and moving forward in His will despite everything that came my way.
If you had to let people know how to get in contact with you or your foundation, how would they do it and where would they do it?
You can hit any of my social media, or if you want to do it in the formal capacity, just send an email to info at tipperfoundation.org, TIPPERFOUNDATION.org, and we'll go from there.
Now, contact numbers too.
Yeah, see, I don't know the Google phone off the top of my head.
Don't feel bad.
So go ahead and send that email.
Yeah. Because we're in company phone numbers too. Trust me.
Definitely understand. But I'm not sure if you even realize this, but I started to tell you prior to the interview, but I said no, I'm gonna wait till after, or at least towards the end. Is, you know, we were nervous to interview you.
Why?
Because, well, at least with me, because I feel like you have a story to tell. I'm always it's almost like a performance when you're singing, and if you're an entertainer, you always become nervous. But with us, it's just like we know that everyone has a story to tell, and to us, it's like you're this big life. Like you do a lot that we see, and you can't help but to respect it.
Right.
And that's where, in my opinion, that's where my nervousness came from.
And I think it's just everybody is different. Like there's not one, I'm not even looking at it as like each interview, but every person is different. Every story is different. So with the questions that we asked you or the statements that we made where you would just have to finish, it was different. Everybody's answers are always different because that's their perspective and and it's like, I kind of get what he was talking about. Like I normally don't really get nervous before interviews, but it does play in my head like, okay, how are we going to approach this interview? And we always try to approach it on this calm, chill type vibe.
Right. A conversation, never an interview. Again, because we think, we know everyone has a story to tell. What it is, whatever it is that you do, everyone has a story to tell. And something that the person say may click, or, you know, click someone else and say, well, hey, if he did it or if she did it, I can do it.
Right. And we've always been wanting to interview you for a while. So it's just like, how come we've never come up with, hey, yo, let's just do an interview. So yeah, we appreciate you taking the time to do this. So.
No problem. I mean, if anything, I was probably nervous because like usually when I do, you know, this type of media, you know, the smart thing to do is to ask for a list of questions and a list of questions in advance to sort of kind of brainstorm answers. But I didn't do that. One, because I trust y'all, and two, it was just going to be what it was going to be. I wanted everything. I don't even write my speeches when I go speak, so everything that comes out is, you know, you know, just God talking through me. Like, and I'm just reciting my life and you know, regurgitating, you know, things that I've learned, my perspectives, and you know, the things that I want to do moving forward. So,
That's how we handle a lot of the interviews.
Right.
We never really sit down and write question after question. We kind of let the person introduce who they are, if they
mhm.
did, and then we just start the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And when people finish, when we're finished the interview, even though it's a conversation, they get a better understanding of the person, because that person has given you the real them. Like
Right.
we've given the real conversation, but not
Mhm.
in, if
Right.
that sounds like I'm not talking crazy.
Yeah.
I got you.
And he's known to talk crazy because we're just like, huh? But I think he just delves more into it than anything. Like he is really like, of course, everybody knows he's a producer. So he's like really into making, let's do this and make sure if it's at 8, we got to do this and we got to do that. And I'm
Right.
like, just chill.
I can.
He can never do that.
But again, those who don't know, how can they get in touch with you? And your
Sure. You can reach me at W Tipper Thomas, W Tipper Thomas, or info@tipperfoundation.org.
definitely.
And if we may ask, if you have anything coming up that's local, do you mind us like helping promote that or whatever it is that you may be having going on?
Not off the top of my head right now. I don't have anything going on. I did have a speaking engagement last week, on Thursday, actually at Pikesville Middle School. Um, a
Didn't
lot
you
of say it
didn't you
again.
didn't you receive something from the governor not too long ago?
Yeah, I got a small little wrap up of governor citation for this redistricting effort that I was a part of over the last 7 months. So
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
appreciate that.
Definitely. And again, we definitely want to say thank you for taking the time out to be interviewed, converse wise, or if that's the word,
Right.
conversational
Yeah.
wise with us. We do appreciate it. Again, if you need anything, let us know.
Right.
We're always there.
And I know we know that you're humble. So if you have anything, let us know. We'll brag about you. We don't care.
Look, and if I dealing with engineering or math, I'm coming to you.
Yeah, right. Right. So
Hey, don't come at the last minute, because I can't remember none of that stuff right now. You gotta give me a couple of days. Let me go look at some old textbooks or something to remember how to do it. But yeah.
right. So
Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Tipper Thomas.
Appreciate y'all, man.
Appreciate you.
by the way, blue face.
All right.
All right, fellas.